Everybody is wrong about the end of chapter 1095 of One Piece, and let me tell you why. Alright, the end of chapter 1095, we see a young Kuma get introduced to Ivankov and a new character named Ginny. Alright, all three of these characters at this time are slaves. We are at God Valley, as we know from my previous video. Alright, and we know that something big is going to happen. Of course, we know that Roger, Garp, and the Rocks Pirates all fight here, alright? It's going to be something crazy, but we don't know what's going to happen there yet. That's not what I'm speculating in this video. I'm going to speculate about who Ginny is and the relationship that she might have with some of the other characters in the One Piece world. Alright, let's get right into it. Alright, first of all, Ginny is introduced eating a big piece of meat, alright? Now, the love of meat is something that's not a new trope in One Piece, alright? We've seen this many times throughout the story and throughout the anime, and I think that Oda is just kind of throwing it in there to just be something that, she's doing. Ivankov's doing his pose, she's eating some meat, alright? It's just what's happening. But one other character in particular is introduced eating meat and eating a piece of pizza, actually. And that is Jewelry Bonney. What does this mean? Alright, I think that potentially Ginny is Jewelry's mother. Okay, it makes perfect sense. Kuma is meeting Ginny in this moment. All right, and they have similar names, Ginny, Bonnie. I think that there's so many similarities between these two characters just from one frame that we have of Ginny that I think that that's probably the best, theory that's out there so far. I see so many people saying that this Ginny character is Luffy's mom because of this love of meat. Alright, that makes no sense. Alright, I would maybe start to believe that if we had seen Dragon at some point in this story, but we haven't yet. Alright, so I just don't think that that can be the case. Alright, obviously, these two characters being slaves is going to have some major importance. Alright, I've seen speculation that Dragon will come to God Valley, and everyone thinks that Dragon used to be a Marine and broke away. I kind of support this theory. I don't really want to think too much about his origin until we're kind of just told, because I think it could really impact his beliefs. I know we know that the destruction of Ohara is a major factor in him transforming the Revolutionary Army. All right, so I really want to wait to see what Oda just tells us before we really try to get into Dragon's head too much, because we don't know anything about this character at this point in time. But what we do know about Kuma and about Ginny is that they're both slaves, alright? That is bound to have some impact, alright? Ivankov having been a slave, that is so impactful to the story. I mean, all of these things make so much more sense why these heavy hitters are a member of the Revolutionary Army, alright? They are just so involved. Not only that, we are starting to see their activity levels pick up. All right, what is Kuma doing currently in the story? He is flying towards supposedly Egghead. He's been called there by Luffy, Bonnie, who knows what, all right? Maybe his programming. At this point in time, we can only speculate what is calling him to Egghead. But what we know is that when he gets there, something big is going to happen. We already know that something massive happens at Egghead, but we know that when he gets there in particular, at least I think, things are going to start to change. All right, now I don't think it would be too outlandish to assume that maybe we get one more chapter and maybe one half chapter of like flashback and then maybe some more conversation. I don't think anything's going to really I don't think any real action is going to happen in the next chapter or two, honestly. But what I think is another thing that we can look at chapter 1095, and honestly Egghead as a whole, is this kind of trope of duos. Alright? So at Egghead we have Lucci and Kaku, this duo kind of, going back and forth, like being with ally of the Straw Hats, enemy of the Straw Hats. It's, usual for them. Another duo that's present during the Egghead arc is Saturn and Kizaru. All right, it's clear that Oda is trying to put heavy emphasis on duos right now in the current story. All right, in chapter 1095, we have the duo of Ginny and Ivankov introduced. Clearly, there's something going on here, and I think that we need to look no further than the Revolutionaries. What is the next duo that I think is going to arrive at Egghead? That's going to be Dragon and Kuma. All right, I think it only makes sense. I think that those two will show up. All right, Dragon to save Vegapunk, and Kuma for whatever, like, we don't know the reason at this point in time. All right, but I think that that's what's going to happen. These two characters are going to change the direction. They're going to force a major event to happen at Egghead. Now, people are going out there saying that Luffy doesn't need help at Egghead. And I agree with this, actually. Luffy doesn't need help. He's a Yonko, all right? He has a crazy strong crew. He's capable of fighting these people. I think it would be a high diff battle right now against Saturn, but he just one-shot Kizaru. All right, so clearly Luffy is a force to be reckoned with. But that doesn't mean that at the point in time that Luffy was saved in chapter 100 from Smoker by Dragon, Luffy didn't really need help then, all right? Who's to say that he needs help now? He doesn't, but that doesn't mean that Oda is not going to introduce this character. There is something massive that's going to happen at the end of Egghead. Luffy winning the battle isn't something massive, all right, guys? I don't know who's that like a news alert to, all right? He usually wins, okay? But something is going to make that win a lot different than those in the past, and that's something that people are overlooking, and that I want to make the highlight of, this theory. And, what I think is going to come from, chapter 1100 and, the next 5 chapters. It's going to be a really crazy series, and, we aren't ready for how it's going to end. Anyways, guys, we have episode 1079 of One Piece coming out tonight. We got Ryokugyu. He's going to be whooping King and Queen's ass. All right, I know all y'all waiting for that. I know I'm waiting for it. All right, it's going to be a good introduction. It's going to be nice to see what the anime does to it. From the teasers, it looks kind of interesting. So I guess, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But anyways, I'll see y'all in the next video. Deuces.